On what seemed like a routine patrol, officers jammed in cars had no idea they were hunted.
Before we dive into this life-changing story, hit that subscribe button, like, and comment.
What the? They're shooting at us! Get down! We're not letting them take us down. Not today. Then let's end this, now! Too close. That's no coincidence. What are they doing? They're trying to run us off the road.
Insane footage of a coordinated attack on a patrol police van. This is not a coincidence. What happened on that dark stretch of highway was not random chance, not reckless driving, not a misunderstanding. It was a calculated, deliberate, and chilling example of how far some men will go when they believe a mission is worth dying for. The date was August 22, 2025. The time was just after 10 p.m. Two men, both private security contractors, were traveling in a reinforced patrol police sedan. For the sake of their safety, we will call them Mark and David. Mark, the driver, was a seasoned veteran, a man whose life had been forged in combat zones across the world. Calm, analytical, and aware of every detail around him, he had lived long enough to recognize when danger was stalking close. David, his partner, was younger, less experienced, but sharp and intuitive. Together, they made a capable team. They were not out for a casual drive. They were wearing level 3 body armor, and their vehicle had been prepared for hostile situations. That alone tells us something critical. They expected trouble. Yet even they could not predict how quickly the ordinary rhythm of the night would turn into an ambush designed with military precision. For 7 miles, a black sedan had been pacing them. Never too close, never falling behind, always in sight. It moved like a shadow, steady, deliberate, patient. Mark noticed it first. Men like him always do. His instincts sharpened the moment he realized the vehicle had no reason to be there, no reason to maintain that exact distance. A sixth sense whispered the truth. They were being followed. The presence of that black sedan was not random. It was the spotter, a decoy, a distraction. Its real purpose was to set the stage for something else. And then it happened. The sound of a high-performance engine cutting through the night, growing louder, sharper, until it became impossible to ignore. A red sports bike appeared, carving through the sparse traffic with precision that spoke of skill and intent. It moved with the fluidity of a predator, first overtaking the patrol sedan in a blur, then falling back, testing the waters. That was the first sign that the target had been confirmed. The motorcycle rider was not just a driver. He was an asset, an attacker, a weapon in motion. The choreography was impossible to miss once you knew what to look for. The motorcycle pulled back. The black sedan slowed in unison. They were communicating, syncing their movements, waiting for the right moment. This was not improvisation. It was a plan. A coordinated ambush on a dark highway. Inside the patrol car, David began to sense the weight of what was unfolding. He was restless, scanning the mirrors, adjusting his body armor, his voice low and tense. "They're tailing us. Too close," he muttered. Mark didn't respond with panic. He already knew. His grip on the steering wheel tightened, his eyes locked on the mirrors. Then David voiced the words that sealed the reality of their situation. "That's no coincidence." And he was right. This was not coincidence. This was choreography. This was a kill box closing in around them. The strategy was textbook. The black sedan boxed them from behind, controlling the flow of traffic so no one could interfere. The motorcycle positioned itself at the front, the tip of the spear. Even the surrounding civilian vehicles became unwilling pawns, their positions manipulated to restrict the patrol sedan's options. Mark and David were being corralled, trapped, cut off from every possible escape route. Mark knew the signs. He had seen ambushes before, overseas in war zones. He had studied this playbook. And he also knew there was no reasoning with attackers who moved with this level of coordination. These were not opportunists or reckless aggressors. These were trained operatives carrying out a mission. Then, the moment came. The motorcycle surged forward, engine screaming as it accelerated directly into their path. There was no hesitation, no attempt to swerve or avoid collision. The rider aimed himself at the patrol sedan with deadly intent, transforming his body and machine into a living projectile. The impact was devastating. Glass exploded, metal screamed as it tore apart, and the motorcycle crumpled into the patrol car's frame. In that one suicidal maneuver, chaos had been unleashed. The goal was not simply to stop the car. It was to disorient, to overwhelm, to break open the defenses so the black sedan could close in and finish the job. Yet the attackers made one critical miscalculation. They underestimated Mark. Where most drivers would have panicked, frozen, or lost control, Mark's instincts kicked in. His years of combat experience, his training, his iron discipline, everything converged in that instant. Instead of braking, instead of surrendering to the chaos, he pressed harder on the accelerator. Even as glass rained down around him, even as the wreckage of the motorcycle jammed into the car, Mark refused to stop. That single decision saved both their lives. By maintaining speed, by pushing forward rather than giving the attackers the satisfaction of a disabled vehicle, Mark disrupted their plan. The black sedan, waiting for the perfect opportunity to strike, suddenly lost its window. Instead of a stationary target, it was left with a moving one, faster, more determined, and angrier than ever. David, shaken but alive, clung to the reality of what had just happened. The patrol car roared forward, broken but not beaten. In that moment, the ambush had failed, not because the attackers lacked precision, but because their target refused to submit. And yet, this was only the beginning, because the questions left behind were as heavy as the wreckage still embedded in the patrol car. Who were these men willing to sacrifice themselves in such a brutal attack? What were Mark and David protecting that demanded this level of violence? And most chilling of all, if this was the opening move, what was the end game? The footage gives us the facts. We see the pursuit. We see the crash. We see the survival. But it cannot answer the deeper mysteries. It cannot tell us who orchestrated this or why they were willing to go so far. What we do know is that this ambush was not improvised. It was professional, it was precise, and it was coordinated at a level that should terrify anyone who thinks highway violence is limited to random acts of road rage. This was something else. This was organized. Mark and David escaped the first strike. But survival in that moment was only the start of a longer, more dangerous night. The attackers had failed to bring them down with the motorcycle, but the black sedan was still out there, and its mission was not yet complete. The ambush had opened the game. The hunt was still underway. And for Mark and David, the nightmare was only beginning. The crash should have ended everything. A motorcycle turned into a missile. A patrol sedan turned into a coffin on wheels. By all logic, Mark and David should not have survived the first wave of that ambush. Yet they did. And their survival changed the game. When Mark pressed the accelerator instead of the brake, when he chose forward momentum over surrender, he tore the playbook in half. The black sedan, the hunters waiting to finish what the motorcycle had started, were suddenly forced into improvisation. And improvisation is dangerous, even for trained killers. But let us not forget, the attack had only begun. The goal was never a single strike. It was attrition. It was pursuit. It was pressure applied until the target could no longer endure. The patrol car was damaged, its windshield shattered, its frame bent from the impact. But it was still moving. That fact alone was enough to shift the balance of power, if only slightly. David would later recall the moments after the crash with words that still carry the weight of shock. "I remember the glass. It was everywhere. I couldn't even see straight. My ears were ringing. But Mark never let go of the wheel. He didn't even look at me. He just drove, like the car was alive and he wasn't going to let it die." That determination is the reason they lived, because the black sedan was not finished. The attackers accelerated. Their headlights loomed